Not so fast, Alina Habba. Don't get comfortable in that U.S. Attorney of New Jersey chair. It's not yours to fill. We know that because 17 different federal judges opposed you. And Donald Trump tried to do a workaround to avoid the Constitution and the obligation to have a Senate-confirmed U.S. attorney by naming you to some sort of special attorney position. But now the first of many, the floodgates are open. A criminal defense lawyer based in New York, working out of the Trump building, filed a motion to have the indictment against his client dismissed because Alina Habba is a fraud and she's not the U.S. attorney. And constitutionally, his client has the right to be prosecuted only by somebody who is properly nominated and confirmed. I'm Michael Popok. You're on the MeidasTouch Network and Legal AF. Ooh, this gave me a happy feeling, warm inside. This is exactly what I said was going to happen. It was a little bit of a fight on the MeidasTouch Network. Who said it first? Was it Michael Cohen and Ben during political beatdown, or was it Popok? It was Popok. I said that they're going to challenge, if I'm a criminal defense lawyer, I'm going to challenge the powers of Alina Habba to be prosecuting anyone as an illegal, as an unconstitutionally appointed judge. And now that motion filed by Tom Merigliano, who, did I mention, his law office is inside the Trump building at 40 Wall Street. I used to walk by that building all the time. I had an office at 100 Wall Street. It's a nice building. I know friends that work in that building, but it is a Trump building and Trump owns it. And it's one of the things that Trump used in the fraudulent loan program that he used, that he got shot down by a New York judge related to that building. So Tom Merigliano files his motion on behalf of his clients, and he says effectively, I'll boil it down for you, that he has the right, a constitutional right, to be prosecuted only by a duly appointed, properly confirmed U.S. attorney. Makes sense? This is how it was going to always come up. Sure, there are public interest groups that can try to have standing to come forward and sue to have Alina Habba removed. I just have been waiting, and I don't see those public interest groups coming forward. You know, Democracy Forward, ACLU, there's a whole bunch of them out there, but they haven't filed yet. So leave it to Tom, who I don't know, who filed his motion. Now, because the federal judges in the District of New Jersey, there's one big district in the state of New Jersey for federal courts. Sometimes federal courts are divided depending upon the size of the state. But she sits for the entire state, from the tippy top to the bottom Cape May and everything in between. So that because the 17 judges properly exercised their rights under a statute about 2 weeks ago to deny an extension of Alina Habba for an additional 120 days to keep that job, meaning Donald Trump would have to go find another U.S. attorney candidate that could get through a Senate confirmation process, they put in Desiree Grace, who is a long-time 15-year prosecutor. She had the job for about 18 hours. They appointed, because the statute says the judges can appoint and shall appoint to fill the role while the president gets their act together on their appointment. She got fired about 18 hours later by Pam Bondi. Not only fired from that job, she got fired from the job she held before she was elevated, which was the first deputy U.S. attorney for New Jersey. But it took a lot of courage to do that, and she has, and she considers herself to be the only duly appointed one. In fact, Tom Merigliano, on behalf of his client, said that as much. So the only duly, properly appointed prosecutor that he recognizes is Desiree Grace, who was appointed by the 17 judges. But because the 17 judges who are on this court were all involved in opposing Alina Habba or appointing her replacement, they all are disqualified and had to recuse themselves. So the Third Circuit Court of Appeals chief judge that sits over New Jersey, this is how this procedure works when there's a disqualification of an entire district, appointed another judge from within the district but outside the state. So he went to the Middle District of Pennsylvania and he gave the case to Judge Brand, who will be sitting by designation as if he were a New Jersey federal judge. Get it? But he's never going to leave his chambers in his courtroom in Pennsylvania. He'll rule on this motion that was filed by Tom Merigliano, soon not to be in the Trump building in New York. And once he rules, it'll go up to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. Now, there is some precedent, just to manage some expectations here. There is a case from the 1990s involving a U.S. attorney last name Gill, who was in Puerto Rico, who sort of got appointed under suspicious circumstances. And there was a similar challenge. Well, he's not lawful. He wasn't properly appointed. He's held the job for 6 years. He never got confirmed by the Senate. And at least there, the First Circuit ruled that, well, because a lot of the criminal defense lawyers were like, hey, let's go for all the indictments and all the convictions, have them all overturned or vacated. And, the First Circuit didn't want to open up the jails and let them all out. So they said a version of the U.S. assistant U.S. attorneys that work under Gill, they take their power directly from the, according to this case, the Attorney General in Washington. So they're not invalid. And they didn't need to be confirmed. So the work and the progress of the prosecutor's office continues. So if that's the precedent, but I think it's a very good argument that Alina Habba is illegal, is unconstitutional, that her powers are void ab initio, and everybody should have their indictments either, dismissed or otherwise. But we'll see how this plays out. But this is the first step in this longer process. I'll continue to report on it right here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. There's so many different ways to send us love, right? If you want to. One is to hit the free subscribe button here on the MeidasTouch Network. Then we've got Legal AF, the YouTube channel. We've already we're heading for the 750,000 marker barrier. We'd love 1 million by the fall, our 1-year anniversary. We're well on our way to getting there. But with your help, people ask me all the time, Popok, how do we support you? How do we make sure you stay on the air? MeidasTouch stays on the air. Legal AF stays on the air. All your commentators. We see what's happening in corporate-owned media with people like me getting fired. How do we avoid that? It's very simple. Hit the free subscribe button. No paywall. Continue to support us. Legal AF, the podcast. Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Subscribe. Rank. Comment. 5-star reviews. That's why you do it. Come over to Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Subscribe. Reminders. You get 12 new videos a day. What a bargain. All for free. But this is what keeps us on the air. This feeds the algorithmic gods, if you will. And then I've got a new show most people know about now on Tuesday nights on the MeidasTouch Network. They gave me my own show. They threw me the keys. It's called The Intersection. I sit at that intersection every week, Tuesdays, 8 p.m., only on the MeidasTouch Network and on podcast platforms of your choice. So until my next report, whatever it may be, on all things Legal AF, I am Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.